Welcome back to Respect the Process. I am Kelly Hunter, and I am joined by my good buddy, voice of Crimson Tide Athletics, Chris Stewart. And I didn't know a better way to do this. I know you should, but congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Win. I'm so proud of you.
I didn't do squat,
You
but
did a
thank
great
you.
job.
Let me tell you, that game set was a really nice surprise. I didn't know what was coming up
You're
right
like,
there.
what?
I was like, I don't know if I can handle this or not.
It's okay.
I was so glad that game went into overtime because I really didn't want it to end. It was as much. I've been doing college basketball since 1988. I was a freshman at Montevallo and started doing games then. And I don't know that I've ever had more fun calling a game. There wasn't a championship on the line. Auburn deservedly had that wrapped up. Alabama may or may not play themselves back into a 1 seed, 1 or a 2. I'm not going to say it doesn't matter, but it's been done before by the program. So, you know, it's not as big a deal as it would have been otherwise. Seeding, yes. Getting the double bye, that's nice. But just for it was a major game because it's 2 top 7 teams. It's Alabama and Auburn, which really doesn't need anything else. But to have that stage, that platform, and then to have that type of game.
It gripped you from the start.
I didn't want it. I didn't want that game to end. Now, I needed it to end after 1 overtime because you can tell the voice is almost shot now, but it was definitely shot Saturday night. But it was so much fun to call. 2 teams laid it on the line. And honestly, sincerely, I felt that way before we got to the finish line. But I was glad it was OT because I was not ready to see that thing wrap up just yet. It deserved 5 extra minutes. It was that good.
Literally from the start, that game gripped you. There was, I mean, everyone watching it with me, you were locked in. Yeah. Because, first of all, it was good basketball.
Very much so.
It was compelling basketball, and we're going to get into it more, but it also was surprising. There were some things that you're like, didn't think that was going to happen. Yeah. But, you know, I did, and then I also saw Chris Stewart's call of Alabama game winner. Could it be possibly an unbelievable script?
So, yeah, I got a call from Mark Heim from AL.com, and I hadn't even read it. I need to, but...
it's not a picture of you, but...
No,
okay.
I could tell that.
No.
But he called me when I'm running through who's on the floor, because I'm trying to set up for the listener at home or somebody driving down the road. That's my purpose on radio, is to tell you everything you can't see. And so I'm trying to give on the floor. And the last person I came to in running through the Bama lineup was Aiden Holloway. And it's in my head, oh my gosh, what if Aiden Holloway is the one that hits the game winner? And so that's could it possibly be an unbelievable script? It's very believable that Mark Sears could hit a game winner. Now, he did not, in terms of point production, have anything close to his best game, but he played a fantastic ball game. He was good defensively. He had, I think, 8 assists maybe or more in that game. He was terrific. People think, well, he only had 9 points, but Auburn did a phenomenal job saying, we're going to make somebody other than Mark Sears beat us. Yeah. So, I mean, Bruce is as good as it gets. He was for the most part, taking the ball out of Mark's hands until the final play, and Nate drew up something fantastic to get it in his hand and get him free to be able to make a play. I thought Holloway might be the guy just because of destiny and the way that thing had gone and where we were, and it would have been an unbelievable script if it was Aiden Holloway, but it was still one heck of a finish with Mark Sears getting it done.
Equally unbelievable. We're going to talk more about that game in just a second, but the most recent AP poll has come out.
Hadn't seen it, so hit me.
Where would you have put Auburn?
I still think Auburn's the best team in the country. I'm going to be surprised, though, if the writers didn't put Duke number 1.
Duke number 1.
Okay.
Houston number 2. Auburn number 3.
You mean the Houston that lost to Alabama?
The Houstons,
early in the year?
They lost to Auburn early in the year.
They did lose to Auburn, didn't they? Yeah.
So
that's Houston's at number 2.
Yeah, the Houston Cougars, not the Houstons. University of Houston is number 2. Auburn falls to number 3, and then you have Florida at 4, Alabama up to 5.
Again, it's why I'm so glad we got the NCAA tournament. I really think there's a good chance we'll have Alabama, Florida, if the bracket holds, Alabama, Florida on Saturday at the SEC tournament, which will likely be for the 4th and final 1 seed. I don't care what that ranking says. Auburn's the number 1 seed.
So even having lost 2,
Auburn's the 1 seed.
Auburn's still the 1 seed. Okay, so only 4 SEC teams in the top 10. Tennessee is number 8. We lost some ground because you have A&M at 14, Kentucky at 15, and then Mizzou at 21.
So is that AP or coaches that you've got?
I've got AP.
You got AP? That's the writers.
AP. So again, we'll.
Thank God for the fact that
we're going to get to play some basketball,
exactly.
So that's the good news.
So how many we got? Let me see.
There you go. We got 7 teams in the top 25. Ole Miss got
7
some
SEC?
votes. Yes.
Ole Miss is a top 25 team. I don't care.
They have the same record as Missouri, so it's interesting that the exact same record as Missouri.
I know you got notes and good stuff, so I'll let you get back to it. I won't take any of it.
Holy smokes, Grant Nelson. Evidently, we just had to just manifest it and conjure it that we needed to get him more involved in this game. But a brilliant game plan because respecting Auburn's perimeter defense. Let's see what we can do with some jump shots and inside the paint.
I'm going to go a different route for you.
Please.
Grant Nelson, not the MVP. Nate Oates, not the MVP for getting Grant involved. Clark Coulter, the athletic trainer. I hadn't talked to Clark, but I'm going to text him and ask him what pixie dust was sprinkled on Grant to get him healthy.
Did some of that Mr. Miyagi?
It may have been, because I'm telling you, for them to get him, there was no lift in the guy the last couple of ball games.
No. And even you were talking about how Brian had been saying how flat his shot had been. And
sure.
I was watching because, when you're shooting flat, it's obviously coming from your legs.
But when he elevated for the first dunk attempt, we talked about this. I guess it was Florida.
Yeah.
And those guys are rim protectors at the highest level. They're really good. And he was trying to avoid them instead of go right at them because I don't think he felt like he could.
Right.
He didn't have the strength, the ability, the health to do it. But, man, he just looked different Saturday.
He postered. It
was nice.
It was a different Grant Nelson than we have seen
since March. Well,
I was going to say,
he had some good moments earlier in the year, and he's been good. He hadn't been terrible. It's just you could tell he wasn't himself. But it was March Grant Nelson.
Well, and that's what I said. I'm thinking, like, is it Auburn? Is it the schemes that they're working on here? Is it just the fact that we're closing in on conference tournament, NCAA tournament? There was a difference. And not
No
only
doubt.
him, but the way Cliff played, the way everybody inside the paint played on Saturday.
There was the one by Grant was fantastic.
Well, the first one scared me because I thought, here we go again.
Yeah.
Here we go again.
He dunked one, it went off the back of the rim.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
But the fact that he got up, it wasn't front rim, it was back rim.
Yeah.
So that's too much. I would assume. I know nothing about dunking, but I'm assuming that was too much lift that he had into it. So still the fact that he could get up was encouraging, and then he got it dialed in. But his dunk, as well as the left-handed jam by Clifford Amore in the second half, that was nasty.
Okay,
those were both big time.
At the 8:43 mark, the dunk, and I don't know if we have to start calling him the Crimson Crane. I don't know if he needs a nickname. Growing up as a Hawks fan, you had John Koncak, the White Tornado.
Oh my gosh,
and so,
Koncak! I hadn't thought of Koncak in years.
The White Tornado,
from
and
SMU,
I didn't know
right?
So I didn't know if Grant needed a name like the Crimson Crane. Was that a taunt? If you're looking at this objectively.
I'll put it this way. I would not have been surprised if they had teed him up. I think so much of that is subjective. In that game, in those emotions, did officials need to be more involved? Probably not. Look, I thought they managed a lot of stuff pretty well.
I do too. I agree.
It's not an easy game. And look, in the emotion of a ball game, it's easy to get, and I've done it. I think the world of Doug Shouse. Doug was doing small college games when I was calling small college games. Worked his way up, and he's one of the top officials around. But, in the emotion of the moment, it's easy for that stuff and that objectivity on my part to go out the window, and it often does. But he and Terry Oglesby are two and I'm drawing a blank on the man that was the third. Byron Jarrett was the third official.
Byron, Terry, Doug.
And there's going to be moments where you don't agree. There's going to be calls you don't agree with. But I thought for the whole, it was managed pretty well. As far as not teeing him up, here's the argument I can make for not doing it. He wasn't in his face doing it. He never looked at him. He never said a word that it appeared. It's been done to Alabama basketball by Auburn far more than Alabama has done it to Auburn. That was a football thing.
Right. Yep.
That was a John Mechie football thing that Auburn started doing. And they're the ones that I think had done that more. Again, they're kids.
But
Go have a good
what
time.
It showed to me? It
showed some fight.
It showed that nasty that you want. That's what.
They weren't afraid.
No, you're looking for a little bit of nasty at this point because I felt at times in the loss against Florida and the loss against Tennessee, they didn't have it.
There have been moments in the last 10 years, more so 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago than in the last 6. But there have been moments where I felt like Alabama teams have gone in there and been intimidated by the environment, by the opposition.
Watching the banner go up before the game started?
There was none of that. And I'll be honest, I didn't even see the banner go up until you said it just now. I didn't know it. Again, Auburn's a deserving SEC champion. They were phenomenal in what is, in my opinion, one of the best seasons, if not the best, in the history of the SEC. To be the best over the course of the year speaks volumes as to what Bruce's team is. They deserve every bit of praise and accolade that they get for this season, which again is what made the game fun. Championship was already gone. It was already determined. You knew who it was. Is there a chance to play for something else beyond just the obvious with the rivalry? It was a little bit for Alabama. But, man, to see both teams just absolutely lay it on the line without there being a ring at stake, it was very, very entertaining. And I think you could be loose and relaxed just from an observer standpoint. Even though I'm not an unbiased observer, I think you could just enjoy the level of play on both sides. Pulling like heck for your team, but you could enjoy what guys on both sides were doing because it was for the game itself. It was for the love of the game itself and the desire to win without there being a tangible carrot dangling in front of you.
Well, and numbers that speak to what we were talking about, hustle and laying it on the line. Alabama had better second chance points than Auburn, points in the paint, and fast break points. Also, when you look at rebounding,
yes, ma'am,
they out-rebounded Auburn. Those are hustle points to me. Those are things that, as we were saying, the intangibles that at this point in the season, you got to dig deep sometimes.
They were all areas that they had to win, and they still barely did.
Yeah.
Which, again, is to Auburn's credit. That one going down the stretch, and I thought Alabama's ability to battle with them was – I wasn't sure they could do that, but it sure was nice to see. Boy, it was that version of Alabama.
And also proving that they don't live and die by the three, which everyone had said for a long time.
Well, people that don't really follow it closely have said that because is it a major part? Obviously it is. But Alabama's goal and desire is to get the ball to the rim and then get it to the outside. And Auburn tried to take, at least especially in the first half, they were trying to take the three away, and Alabama took advantage by getting to the rim and scoring and being successful, which opened up more from the perimeter, and then they wound up. How many did they finish with? How many threes did Alabama finish with?
Alabama had 7, and you know who had 3 of them? Grant Nelson.
Grant Nelson did have 3.
Had almost 50% of the 3 points that were.
He was.
And
he
even
was
Auburn.
terrific.
Auburn only had 10.
Yeah, and that's a number though for them that if they get that, they got a really good chance of winning most days.
And we talk about the scoring was pretty even, with the exception of Grant. Grant led all scorers with 23. But then LeBaron with 15.
You're talking about for Alabama, right? Because Janai Broome had how many?
Oh, we'll get to Janai.
Okay,
we'll get because Janai's going to get his.
He
know
got
that.
his and then some. He was great.
But with Alabama, Grant had 23, LeBaron had 15, Cliff had 15, Mark with 9, and then Chris Youngblood with 9, and Aiden Sherrill with 8.
Let me tell you, that was huge what Aiden Sherrill did in the first half.
To come in, yes. The bench points that were brought, because even though the numbers aren't overwhelming, it was the timing of the shots.
I agree.
Aiden Holloway had a huge basket, and they had to fight for some of them to get good looks.
No doubt.
But again, you talk about seeing a little nasty. Cliff Amore's always aggressive, but you could tell it was infectious to see Grant out there, and then everyone else following suit.
That version of Clifford Amore is the one that I think Alabama's got to have if they're going to win a national championship.
I agree.
I'm not putting it all on his shoulders, but that version of him where he's a threat, a real threat offensively, and he played a lot of minutes late with 4 fouls and didn't get his 5th. Now, he gave up some buckets, and again, to Broome's credit, he went right at him. That's where a lot of Janai's late points came from, is going at him, and, Cliff was giving ground. Sometimes I felt like too much. Yeah. But he was giving ground to make sure he could stay on the floor.
Yeah.
And that's why you've got to make sure the ball doesn't get to that spot. And Bama didn't do a great job there. But, again, having Cliff on the floor late was a big factor in them getting the win.
Well, speaking of being on the floor, midway through the second half, it was a big call on Auburn's Chad Baker-Mazara with the flagrant number 2. Because Chris Youngblood was taking some shots, too. I'm guessing he's okay. We saw him out there with the Band-Aid. God bless him making – was it those free throws right after he had come back in with the Band-Aid that you were like, can he see the basket?
Yeah. I said on air, shoot at the one in the middle.
Yeah.
There's 3 that he's probably seeing because of blurred vision, but hit the one in the middle.
The overall impact with Baker-Mazara off the court.
It's big. He's one of the top players in the league. He's one of the top players in the country. But it was the right call. There was a play a few minutes earlier, and I thought they got that right. Brian said it immediately. Brian Passink on the network said, look, I know the reputation. This is a guy that got thrown out of the NCAA tournament last year for a cheap shot. He goes, I don't think that was intentional. Talking about the shot to the face. That didn't appear to be intentional. That's 2 guys going after a basketball, and he caught him.
Yeah.
They got it right.
Yeah.
They also got it right when they tossed him, because that was a clear. He missed him the first time or didn't get him real well, and then he popped him pretty good after that, and that's what got him tossed.
I mean, obviously that was an impact then, because you're playing the last 10 minutes and overtime without. I mean, one of your key guys.
I'm playing hurt here, so
it's okay.
Forgive me.
No, it's okay. Well, just like you, big-time players make plays
that's it.
when it's a big time.
Yeah.
Alabama putting that ball in Grant Nelson's hands to go up 79-77. Auburn's Janai Broome then makes the layup, ties it at 79. We're headed to overtime, and this felt radically different than the end of the Tennessee game.
Yeah. Much more poised. I'd have to go back and watch both and I haven't watched either one. But I felt like Bama was more under control and that Auburn may not have pressured them as well as Tennessee did. I think that was part of it. Bama was also tougher and stronger. You know, if you get a box out late against Tennessee, you win that ball game.
Yeah.
And that turned out to be, as things played out, cost you a piece of the ring, I guess. But it was a tough game, but a great ball game. And I think they did learn from their mistakes at the end of that Tennessee contest, which allowed them to get the win on the Plains.
Once we went to overtime, Amori with a couple of huge baskets, Grant with a tip-in, and then to have your freshman, LeBaron Philon, on the line with 2 critical free throws.
Yeah.
Drains them both with 30 seconds left to play in overtime.
He's playing as well as we've seen him all year. I think even though he had the mistake against Tennessee, collectively in that ballgame, I thought he was terrific, and he was just as good or better Saturday against Auburn. Just a great effort, both ends of the floor. Not the best by far of the perimeter shooters.
7th game out of the last 8 where he's been in double-digit scoring.
Yeah, but he's great at getting to the rim and creating issues there, but he hit a couple of much-needed threes in that game. Yeah. I'm right. It was at least 2, wasn't it? Feels like it.
LeBaron had 1.
He did have 1?
It was a long range. It
felt like
long range.
Felt like 2 threes.
Exactly.
Again, you talk about it, though, timing of it. He came up with some big shots at big times, and not just shots, but plays. What he did on defense. It's very exciting to think about what his future is, but also what by future, I mean the next month, could be for this team with him.
And then obviously, Janai Broome. Phenomenal player. I think anyone who has watched him can sit there and would say yes. Probably the best player in the nation, playing his best basketball right now with 34 points, 8 rebounds. But, I mean, to Alabama's credit, they limited him to 1 offensive rebound.
I didn't realize it was that few. What did he have?
He had 8 boards.
8 for the game. That's what I thought.
7 on defense.
7 on the defensive end. Yeah. I mean, and that took a team effort.
Yeah.
To keep them off the.
I mean, he had 5 blocks, 3 steals. I mean, he's going to get his points. He's going to be an impact player.
If you'd show me that stat line was before the game, I wouldn't have thought Alabama had a chance. If you told me Mark Sears scores 9 and he scores 30, does what he did across the board, I didn't think we'd had a chance.
And then you put the ball in the seniors' hands.
Yeah.
As time is expiring, Mark Sears, the silence was deafening because you watch that shot and then you're sitting there going, I just want to make sure it left his hands.
Yeah. And you knew it had.
Yeah, exactly. It was
clear.
But once again, it was the runner in the lane. It wasn't a 3-point shot.
Right.
It was.
He may have made more of those in the last week than I've seen him make in most of his career. I mean, he had, in the game against Florida, he had at least 6 or 8, I think, buckets that way.
Yeah.
Which, just about everything is truly a layup or a 3-point shot.
Yeah.
You don't see many of what he did in the last 2 games, but that one was so well done. He had the clock right in front of him. He knew what his time situation was. He didn't get too deep into the lane where it could be blocked, and he didn't pull up too soon.
Yeah.
It was just absolutely gorgeous.
And the entire game, as we were saying, he did not have a lot to work with because they were going to make somebody else beat him than Mark Sears.
In the way the way the play was run, I think with Philon, the Auburn players actually knocked themselves off of each other. That's what gave Mark the step on the defender, was that they collided with each other. And
was there
the difference in the game.
Was there an Alabama presence there? Because it did not feel that way watching it from home. Yeah, I mean.
Well, they do such a great job with their fans. And it's not a big arena, but it's perfect.
Right.
It's perfect for them. And one of the best environments in all of college basketball. It's very much, I've never been to Cameron. I take that back. I have been to Cameron Indoor, but it's been 15 plus years ago. New modern version, but there's some similarities just in terms of atmosphere and environment, having the students involved in such a big way. But it's not a big building. I mean, 9,000, whatever it seats. And they are right on top of you. It's loud. It's a great environment with a great team. But it was really tough to hear a lot of stuff, and for them to be able to get that done in that setting is one I won't forget anytime soon.
It's the first time Auburn's lost back-to-back conference games since January of 2024. That loss also kept them from cutting down the nets, which they had planned to.
I give them credit. I think it would have been look, winning is enough. You could have taken it either way. You could have gone, well, they cut down the nets, but after a loss, and there's some satisfaction in it from a winner's standpoint, but you also kept them from cutting down nets. I think it's motivation for Auburn, to be honest. It's motivation for them to go and have a chance to cut down the nets in Nashville. We didn't get to do it at home the way we feel like we should have been able to, and now let's go try to get it done there.
So we are talking about heading up to Nashville later this week. Tide did get the double bye, earning the 3 seed. Once again, they think you're a late night guy.
Sure. Back in the day, maybe, but the
this guy comes to party.
Yeah. We'll go on the air. I doubt we'll start before 9, maybe. No. But that's fine.
There's usually severe weather.
I think it's great, though. For this team that even though they played well and sharper than they have in a while, that they're getting the extra time to rest and be able to go.
I'm guessing, though, I know Youngblood took some shots, but it looked to be more superficial than anything that would prevent him from playing.
Later. I don't think it's going to be a problem. I think they'll be as healthy as they've been. I have no clue on Darion Reed, but still hopeful we'll see him again before it wraps up.
Possibly facing Oklahoma, Georgia, or Kentucky.
It'll be Kentucky.
Think so?
Yeah, for one reason.
Lance has a feeling that Georgia's getting ready to bust out on a big run here.
Maybe so. But here's the thing. I mean, Georgia's good. But for the love, we face Kentucky or Florida every year, it seems, in the SEC tourney. So I won't be shocked if we catch one more shot at Big Blue Nation. Got them in.
Play Kentucky a third time in the season. Yeah.
But you beat them twice.
Exactly. I know.
And it's another opportunity for a Nate Oates program to put a stamp on something that Alabama basketball hasn't done. And I may be wrong, but I don't think the Tide's ever beaten the Cats 3 times in a year.
Does Alabama have to win at least one game to be considered a number 1 seed?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so they need to at least make it to Saturday in order to get a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament.
And I don't know if that's going to be enough.
Yeah, I just was curious as of right now.
And that's totally a guess. I would just be surprised. Even though you beat Auburn on the road, I would think you've got to get at least one. Okay. And I think if the AP poll is right and it's Alabama, Florida that are right there for the last 1 seed, I can absolutely see the game potentially on a Saturday in Nashville deciding who that is.
I mean, or it'd be interesting to see if Tennessee had the possibility of jumping.
They beat Alabama. Who knows? We don't.
We're gonna settle it on the court.
Here's the beauty from the Alabama perspective, and Lord knows I've seen the other side of this plenty. At least we know it's not determining whether you get into the tournament field or not. We're talking about Alabama getting to Saturday or Sunday to be a 1 seed or a 2 seed. We're not talking about a bubble. Thank you, Jesus. That's not on the agenda anymore. That is not in the vernacular.
We've been through those lean years before.
No, and it's not like you live there every year.
No,
but you lived a lot in the last I should say prior to Nate's arrival.
Yeah.
We lived there for about 10 years.
Yep. Okay, so you were headed up to Nashville for Alabama's Friday night game with TBD.
And speaking it into existence, sinuses and all will be chest congestion will be gone.
Just some.
Please, Jesus,
get some
let it be gone.
NyQuil going or something of that sort.
Said with sincere reverence and
Moonshine,
not flippantly.
I don't know, whatever it takes to clear that.
However the Lord chooses to try and heal, I will be open to it.
Okay, so Friday night, Alabama will play the last game, which the last game is the last game.
Yeah.
And there's usually severe weather, and that'll, there's...
Hopefully not.
It just...
At least it'll be a sturdier structure than that tarp we had over us at the Georgia Dome that night.
Oh, my gosh. Well, if you can't wait till Friday, you can always find more of Chris Stewart at chrisstewart.online. He'll be there all this week.
All the social media links available to you.
Scott Forrester, what can I say? I mean, I wrote here, I said, provider of sage wisdom and advice, and you're like our Buddha who's a White Sox fan. So, yeah.
You literally typed that.
I did.
That's pretty good.
I did. I said, you are like our Buddha who's a White Sox fan on the other side of the glass. So, thank you. Find everything you need at Cover Crimson, as well as every single day on The Next Round with Jim and Ryan and Lance. We will be back next week recapping the SEC tournament and talking about where your next vacation is going to be.
Exactly right.
Where Alabama is headed for the first round of the NCAA tournament.
Look forward to it.
I know.
Excited.
It's crazy. We're here.
It is.
We are here. And is it St. Patrick's Day next?
I don't know.
It's coming up.
It is coming up. I think it is next Monday.
We'll find out. But for Scott Forrester, I'm Kelly Hunter. Chris Stewart, thank you so much for watching. Chris, give them a reliable and an SEC tournament.
Roll Tide.
We'll see you next week. Take care.